What's up guys, it's McNulty here. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all doing well and we are back. And if you have been watching this channel for a little bit now, you will know that in the beginning of 2024, we embarked on a journey, and that was a journey to break down every single hero in the game and give ourselves a top 10 in each element. Now, it has been a little while since that initial video. In fact, we're nearing the end of 2024 and I've decided that it's time that we do it again. It's kind of a big project, but I'm going to do it in a completely different way this time because thanks to the Raven's Cave and thanks to some other people that have been helping me, we've decided that we've come up with an idea, and that is that we need to break the heroes down by class, or by speed, sorry. So we want to go through the heroes basically from the best slow speed heroes in the game, the best average speed heroes in the game, the best fast speed heroes in the game. And for some of these lists, we're not just going to do the top 10. In fact, today we're going to be starting out with the top 20 slow heroes in the whole of Empires and Puzzles. So it's quite a big task and there's a lot of heroes to go through. As you can see up on the screen right now, we are going to start off with the ice heroes, but we've got a total of 127 heroes to go through, and this is up to date as of right now, 1st of September or 2nd of September 2024. So we're going to go through these heroes. I will go through them relatively quickly, but what we're going to do is we're going to try and single out those heroes that will make the biggest impact within your rosters. So if you have, I would say 3 or 4 of these heroes, maybe 5 of these heroes in your roster, you are doing pretty damn well. So let us go through our list. We'll start off from the top. We'll just whiz through it pretty quickly. So here is the list up in front of us right now. So starting off in the top left-hand corner, you can see Ajax. I'm not going to spend any time on him. He's definitely not going to make the top tier at all. Next to him, we have Bobo. Bobo's pretty decent because he gives a decent amount of defense down. Granted, it is really usable against Titans primarily, and he is running at slow speed, obviously, as all of these heroes are, but he's definitely not going to make the cut. I'd say he's pretty good against Titans, but that's about it. Cao Cao, right next to Bobo. Now, he has just received a costume which makes him incredibly good, and definitely topping out the S tier, so he will definitely be a contender. Next to him, we have Cell. She's featured in the Soul Exchange at the moment for 20 souls, which I think is a massive ripoff, unfortunately. So I'm not going to rank Cell anywhere near the top of these heroes. I would give her a, C grade, and that's being generous. Grimsteel, fantastic hero. I really underestimated him when he came out. I would say he's definitely right up there in the S tier, so definitely a contender in Grimsteel. Next to him, we have Esania, probably my first ever hero, my first ever legendary hero that I pulled. And she really serves a good purpose with that defense down. It lasts for 6 turns. It's pretty damn awesome. And then that costume came out and I got it and I was like, wow, this is insane. Thing is, she kind of dropped off of a cliff, unfortunately. The third costume was a bit of a bomb. It didn't really work. But then we got the toon. And the toon for Esania is so good. That passive, the wizard class, gives her the superior jinx, which just lets her dispel with tiles. So definitely in the toon version at least, Esania definitely makes the cut. Now next to her we have Caballero. Kind of a weird mechanic, like he hits 1 but he actually hits 3, and he gives them that healing gift, which is kind of like the mindless attack. I would say he's almost exactly the same as the costume 2 for Quintus, the Love Doctor one, but the problem is Quintus's stats are better because he's got that toon version. So if you have a choice between the two of them, I would level Quintus over Caballero. So he's not a bad hero, but I'm going to say A tier at best. Now moving on, Kettle, absolute dog water piece of trash, don't even bother, just the bottom of the barrel. Next to him, Claren, terrible hero, don't bother leveling him, save him for the next Soul Exchange or feed him away in this one if you haven't made your mind up. Lysanor, fantastic actually. Now Lysanor is probably, in fact she is the best reviver in the game now. It was Mother North for a long time. and then costume Heimdall came along, and then Lysanor came along and just blew everyone out the water. If you need a reviver for your team, and it's really useful in the rush format, you cannot do any better than Lysanor. 60% revive, bringing them back with 20% HP, and then a boosted heal over time. Just a fantastic hero, top of the class. S tier all day long. As is Mickey, who's right next to her. Still, I mean, even though they haven't released a costume, I can't wait for that costume, and I'm sure that they're waiting for the right time. But Mickey is an insanely good hero. That silence effect, it's massive, and the increased damage on top of that is massive as well. So he's good against Titans, he's good in attack teams, he's good on rush wars, he's insanely good on rush wars. Definitely makes the S tier for slow speed heroes. Next to him, Milady de Winter, another fantastic hero, easily makes the S tier, just a unique skill, definitely going to be a top contender. Mystra, another massive beast of a hero that's just been released into the Champions Portal really recently, and a very interesting new mechanic for Mystra where she damages based on the speed of the enemy. Now, sometimes it's a bit tricky to play with, but the great thing about Mystra is that when Rush Wall comes around, she treats everybody as if they're very fast, and that gives her the maximum damage output, which is just insane. Absolute S tier hero, and some pretty awesome passives for her as well. Now, who do we have next? We've got the 9-headed beast. Again, the name says it all. He is a beast. He gives that awesome ailment duration increase and buff duration increase at the same time. He hits pretty hard. Now, not as hard as some of the other slow speed heroes. So he is, not quite doing himself any favors there. But the great thing about him is that if you do have heroes with like a taunt, for example, he can just bust right through that in one shot. Really fantastic hero. I would definitely put him right up there as well. Next to him, we have Otso. Not a huge fan of the bear, unfortunately. I did review him as part of the recent Kelvala, and aside from having pretty decent stats, he doesn't have much good going for him. So I would leave Otso out of it. Porthos, again, I'm going to say he's probably the worst musketeer. So I would definitely steer away from Porthos. You're going to regret leveling him if you do put those mats into him. Raphael, he's another interesting hero of the month, but he gives that, heals everybody up to 50%. He's really not a very good hero, so I'd stay far clear of him as well, unfortunately. We're not doing very well down the bottom of the row. Snow White. Okay, now we're talking. Fantastic hero, great skill. She dispels, it's priority dispel, and she deals damage based on the amount of buffs that she dispels, and she can deal a whopping amount of damage. She was featured for 10 souls in a recent soul exchange, and you know what? I think for 10 souls, she was an absolute bargain. So Snow White, definitely I would put her well up towards the S tier, probably in the A tier, with the new stats that she's got from the costume and everything else going on. Fantastic hero, so definitely worth leveling if you have a copy of her. Theobald, nah. I had him, fed him away. He's not a very good hero. So the stats are far too dated. Unless they do costumes for the circus heroes, I'm going to say stay clear of Theobald the bear as well. In fact, he looks freaking cute, but that's about all he's got going for him. Okay, next hero that we've got on our list is going to be Amos. So with Amos, I would say he's definitely worth maxing out if you have the costume. And this is where we're going to switch to our next list. So we'll just bring that next list up right now. And there you can see Amos in the costume. That reflect against fire is freaking cool, especially if you've got a strong team full of fire enemies going up against them in rush. You know that Amos has got your back. You get those 3 green tiles and it's game over. Pepper Flame, Khufu, like any strong hitting red hero, you've got a load of them. You just take costume Amos up against them and it's lights out. Plus, on top of that, the amount of damage that he does is just absolutely brutal. So yeah, you can't really ask for a much better hero in Rush Wars than Amos. So I'm going to put him well up into the S tier as well. Alberic, again, like I said, you know, you've got Lysanor, you've got Mother North, you've got Heimdall costume, you've got all these excellent revivers, you've got the owl, the green owl, forget his name now, but these are all excellent, excellent revivers. Dabria, you know, and I would put any single one of those heroes that I've just mentioned above Alberic. So unfortunately, he's losing out big time. Augustus, pretty decent healer. I'm not going to put him in the S tier though, like somewhere around a B grade. But Tilla next to him, there was a time when she was pretty awesome, but that time has come and gone and passed, and it's in yesteryear. So yeah, until she gets a costume, no thanks. Kongalak, on this list I've got, he doesn't actually have his costume yet because this is taken from the Raven's Cave, and I believe they do keep things pretty up to date, but not quite up to the very latest minute. So I know he's got a costume. In his costume, I'm going to say that he's definitely up there into the A plus tier, but it's very, very similar to the original. So aside from the stat boost, you're not getting a great deal extra with Kongalak. So if you don't have any hard hitters in green, he's definitely worth leveling. But if you do, if you've got other heroes like Costume Amos that I've mentioned already, or a couple of others we'll look at in a moment, then I'd probably leave Kongalak costume alone. Februus next to him, absolute waste of time. In fact, a lot of the Masked Gods heroes were terrible. I mean, we had Jove released into the portal. He was just insanely good. And even Fortuna was pretty good at the time, but Jove was insane. And then when they released the Masked Gods into the game, it was like, what's going on here? I mean, there's a couple of good ones, but they're mostly pretty trash. And Februus definitely falls into the trash barrel, unfortunately. Now, Frog Prince, on the other hand, he's actually a really, really good hero. So he's quite unique in the fact that he sort of heals himself and gets healing based on the damage that he's doing from other heroes on his team. And he gets a massive amount of dot damage. So if you like dot damage heroes, and you like heroes that are very good at protecting themselves and sticking around to make the enemy team, you know, rue the day they were born, then Frog Prince is a pretty good hero. I'll give him a solid A+. I think I gave him an S in the last list, but I think he's probably dropped down 1 or 2 rungs at least since then. Now, next hero, I've mentioned him a couple of times already. Heimdall, the original version, trash. Costume version, freaking awesome. He's got a 55% revive, brings them back with, I think, 20% health, and then he gives them a boosted health regen. So if they weren't already dead, they're getting boosted health on top of that. So probably I would say maybe the third best reviver in the game after the owl, who is the green owl, who I can't remember the name of. I'll get to it at some point. Horgal, okay. Terrible hero in the original version, terrible in the first costume, terrible in the second costume, awesome as a toon. And that is the main story with a lot of these heroes. The toons are awesome. Your slow speed toons are the heroes that you want to level. I would definitely recommend maxing them. Pretty much every single one of them I would put in the S tier now because they jump up their damage so much in that form that you're definitely going to be doing some pretty serious hurt to the other team. And also they get that mega passive, which makes it so frustrating to go up against those toon heroes. So Horgal, yep, I'll put him in the S tier for now, even though he's been pretty much the trashiest hero in the whole entire game up until the toon was released. But now he does a boatload of damage, and he's pretty dressed, whatever the word is, he's pretty dreadful to face. Now, Lady of the Lake. Love, love, love Lady of the Lake, especially if you have her costume, which thankfully I do. She has been given a really nice stat boost, and they keep bringing the costumes up to par with where they need to be. So I'm a huge fan of Lady of the Lake. She's a very, very good control hero. Second only, I would say, to Waterpipe as far as mana control minions are concerned. And she's just an excellent hero. S tier all day long, especially if you have the costume. Now, Lughide, again, another one that's on my list here that has recently received a costume. His costume is not great, even though they're removing the growth and wither effects. I just don't understand it. He's not very impactful, so we'll leave Lughide alone. Max, pretty decent healer. I will probably give him a B because I gave Augustus a B. I put them in a very similar sort of category. Mother North, still an excellent reviver. If you don't have her costume, she is a little bit like she's lacking quite a bit in the stat department. So if you don't have a costume, I'm going to say B. If you do have a costume as far as revivers go, plus she pumps out a bunch of minions, so you can use her really well with heroes like Pengi or other heroes that take advantage of minions. So yeah, I'll give her an A plus with the costume. Just a fantastic revive hero for Rush Wars specifically. Prince Siegfried, great hero actually. Really liked the opera heroes. Wasn't sure he was going to be any good when he was released, but actually having faced him now in Rush Wars, I know how good that guy is, and his skill is very unique. So I'll definitely put him in the S tier. If you have a copy of him and you're sleeping on him, definitely max that guy. He's great. Queen Anne, excellent hero. Pretty dated stats though, so I can't give her anything more than A grade, I would say, but she is still excellent as far as being an excellent taunt hero and a good protector of your team. Ryan Glow, I thought he was going to be pretty good. I was wrong. He's probably the most terrible of the construct heroes because of the way he takes damage and builds it up over time. If you kill him, that effect goes away, and he's just a useless piece of trash, which is unfortunate because I wanted to like him and he looks pretty cool. Starlass. Starlass is the slow version of Xandrella that we've just had in the I wanted to say Fated Summon there, in the Soul Exchange portal. And Starlass is like Xandrella on steroids when Rush War comes around. Just a freaking awesome hero, not element specific, but she gives that massive mana reduction, mana control, and she's got a huge hit as well. So I know somebody who is like gonna feed, I think who fed Starlass away in the Soul Exchange, and I saw it and I was just like, what are you doing? This is a amazing hero that you're just giving away, basically. Anywho, we will move on. Starlass is an S tier hero all day long. Now we're on to our next bit of the list here. And we're going to be going for the dark heroes now. So we've done the ice heroes, we've done the nature heroes, got a couple more natures, and then we're into the dark heroes. So Theodosius, absolute S tier hero all day long. Winifred, also an S tier hero with the Bard bonus, buff blocking, decent amount of attack and chains through heroes. She can be the linchpin for a lot of teams, especially boosting your slow speed heroes to make them run at average speed in a lot of cases. Very good. Yunnan, pretty much a waste of time whether you have his costume or not. Chakozrot, rotten hero. I think you all know my thoughts about him. He's terrible. Gosek's still great. I think that his stats, being what they are, a little bit dated, but that damage scaling makes him a really impactful hero and one not to underestimate, especially on defensive teams. He's still very good. On attack, it's more difficult because you want to make sure his HP is down as low as possible, and that can be pretty risky. So yeah, for Gosek, I'll still give him an A. He's still a really good hero, not quite the S tier hero that he was, unfortunately, just because of stats. Griffix, good for mana control, seen him used to good effect in Rush Wars, but not really. Like he can be used if you force him into part of a team, but not at the upper echelon for what we're looking for. Karnov's good option for tiles, really good against Titans, but not much else. Kunshin, I remember a time when he was actually a pretty good defensive hero, but that time's come and gone, and until we see a costume for Kunshin, he's pretty much dog water. Lu Bu, again, probably the same thing. I think we're probably going to see a costume for him pretty soon. I do use Lu Bu still because I love the way that his fiends block buffs, and that can be used to good effect if you like, tactical play in Rush Wars. But even though they increased his damage, his stats are a little bit lacking. So I would still put him as like an A to A plus sort of hero, but not quite in the upper echelon that we're looking for, unfortunately. Lucinda, pretty decent hit, but not much else, and whatever else she's got doesn't really work very well. I think she hits 3, but she's not great, so I will give her a B. Ludwig, still the only hero that gives that awesome effect that Ludwig gives, and yeah, if you don't have a copy of him, he's a hero that I would definitely recommend wherever you can get him. If you are lucky enough to pull him from the Knights, don't be sad that you pulled an older Knight. He is one of those old heroes that just, the gift that keeps on giving. That is what Ludwig is. He's fantastic. Madame Giri. Madame Giri is the better version of Lu Bu. So she is the S tier version where Lu Bu used to be, and she does the exact same thing, just 100 million times better now at the moment. So I'll give her an S all day long. Marie Therese with her zombies is an absolute waste of time, costume or not. Melancholia, the most disappointing of the Insanity family heroes or cultists, etc. She is pretty trash as far as the insane heroes go. Her effect doesn't work very well. She's a detriment to herself. And yeah, you can argue with me if you want, but I'm really not a fan of Melancholia. I don't think she works very well. Omidus, on the other hand, is great. He has a massive, massive hit, which scales, so he works extremely well with the goblins. Heroes that we looked at so far, like Grimsteel, boosting his attack will have a massive impact on your team, and he can easily wipe a team if you do manage to increase either just his normal attack, or if you give him growth, and if you give the opposition wither, or you give them defense down, he's going to finish pretty much everybody. Plus he gets that Fiend Destroy as well, which is kind of okay, but he's mainly there for the damage. Excellent hero. And Omidus, I'll give him an S. Pathonus, I believe he's got a Dispel, which is pretty cool, but again, dated stats, not enough damage. Really don't make him an excellent hero. He was for a little bit, but I wouldn't recommend him at this stage. So I'll give him a B. He's pretty average. Quintus, I've already mentioned him. Second costume for Quintus is great. Toon costume that we've just had, which is not on my list here, absolutely makes him an insanely good hero. So if you do have the Toon costume, it's a no-brainer. If you don't, and you like mana control and mind control, mindless attack, then Quintus is great for that. I would definitely level him if I had the second costume or the Toon costume, but I don't. Sam and Loki, still a piece of trash, costume or not. Scath. Scath is, I think he's got that Void Bomb thing going on, where again, he's one of those that sort of builds up the damage. So Rhineglow's the one with the taunt, and then Scath, he builds up the damage over time. Again, I don't think that he's very impactful. I've really not had any struggle against him. I've not seen many people that prefer using him on defense or even on attack in Rush Wars. So I'm going to go ahead and say bit of an unknown, but I'll put him in the B grade for now. Set, I do still have. He's unleveled because I feel like his effect is just lacking in a few different areas. I feel like the time for his minions and increase with their poison damage comes on, and he gives that negative mana if you defeat him. It's pretty pointless because he's defeated then, and you've just got a ghosted lane and you build your mana right back up. So Set, I'm really not impressed by. We'll see. Maybe he gets an awesome costume, but with the season 4 costumes, they are very similar to one another. So probably more of the same. And now we're on to our last few dark heroes. So Sneferu, great hero, similar to a Ludwig type effect with the a buff block on his skill. Although he doesn't work quite as well as Khufu, I feel like with Khufu he's got a little something extra with that elemental defense down, because he's really usable against Titans as well, and it scales. Plus the sand damage and everything else that he's doing. I put Sneferu on a similar sort of par with Khufu. I know we haven't got to him yet, but I'm going to give him an A. And then Tweedles. Tweedles is cool, man. Like, Tweedles gives that awesome hard hit, and then he gives the negative defense down the second hit, and then he gains 30% mana if it hits the same target. So I've seen some insane stuff used where you've got a team full of Tweedles against the Titan, and they just cycle and they keep firing and they keep firing. It's absolutely insane, where you use you kill them all, and then you use what's his name now? I can't believe I'm not going to get this guy's name. The gargoyle. Jeez. I've just so many heroes going through my head right now. You know the guy I'm talking about. The guy that makes everybody else's special his own. The 4-star green gargoyle. Can't believe I can't remember his name anyway. I'll kick myself in a minute. Uwe. That's not the gargoyle I'm talking about, but that is the next hero that's on this list. So Uwe, I am lucky enough to have him, and he's actually a really great hero. I was a bit unsure about how his attack worked initially, where I'm hitting one and then based on them having less than 50% health, hitting another. But he's an absolute finisher, and he hits like a truck. 850% damage is no joke, and he's got the stats to back it up. Plus, he gets that awesome soft skin as well. So yeah, I'll put him in the S tier, easily in the S tier at the moment. Um, Viscaro, I was kind of going to skip over him. He's really not very good. I'll give him a C. There was a time when you could have used Viscaro, but again, like I said before, that time has gone and passed. Aslar, with the Toon version again, absolutely insane hero. Boatload of damage, nice amount of dot damage over time. I'll give Aslar an S if you do have the Toon version. If you don't have the Toon version, then sadly you're missing out. But that's just the way things go, unfortunately. Ebba, pretty decent, kind of an average hero, pretty decent hit. So I'll give Ebba a solid B+. Elena, again, like I said before, Toon versions make all the difference. If you do have the Toon version for her, I'll give her probably an A+. I don't think she's quite as good as some of the other Toons, even though she does get that counter attack, and it's pretty much impossible to dispel it off of her because of her Toon passive. It's not impossible to dispel it off of everybody else. So that's kind of what takes her down a rung. And her damage is not quite as high as some of the other Toons that have been released. Guffer, I'm really impressed by. I think he's an excellent hero. I'll give him an S tier, even though he's kind of a little bit less impactful than I thought he was going to be. I'll still say that he would go in the S tier. If you do have a copy of him, if you're lucky enough, because he's probably one of the newest gargoyles out, I would definitely level him up. Ilmarinen, I think that's how we say his name. He's an excellent hero. He's like the 5-star version of Wilbur, and pretty much better in every way. So an absolute beast in tournaments, but you can use him in other areas of the game as well. So definitely worth a look at Ilmarinen if you do have him. His stats don't need to be great because he's so well rounded in terms of his other skills. Kagan's Toon is the beast of all beasts. Just hits like a truck, boosts the mana of everybody else around him, the mana generation, and he's just a destroyer. I mean, tournaments, rush war, like general raids, general play, you name it, he's good at it. And even on defenses in regular wars with that Toon passive, like I say, he's survivable. If he goes off, it's pretty much lights out. So yeah, he gets an S tier all day long. Khufu, we've already said, I'll give him an A, same as Sneferu, even though I think he's just slightly better. And then Nikki. Nikki's also got a decent amount of damage, but again, not quite in the same realm. So B grade for her. Nor, terrible now with those minions they were annoying at one point. Now they're just not a non-factor nowadays with the amount of power that you get. Otis, fantastic hitter, really good hard hit. But again, the stats may be just slightly dated, but I would say still I'd put him up in the A grade for Otis. Next to him, Ruaid, absolute superstar coming out of the monster portal. And I think one of those heroes that a lot of people have overlooked, but he is so good. Priority Dispel increases his damage from like 400 to 500% depending on the amount of buffs that the enemy have that he just dispelled. Just such a great hero. Boosts attack, boosts defense, does everything that you want. He's so well rounded, does impact the whole entire team. So yeah, I don't think you can do much better than Ruaid. S tier all day long. And now we are into the final group of heroes, which is the Holy Heroes. So we'll kind of skip over Santa Claus. Yeah, I know he's the fire hero, but the last couple on my list. Vanya, actually a really good hero from the Garrison Guard, gets that insane passive resistance against mana reductions as well, and an excellent healer and protector of your team. S tier for Vanya all day long. Vanya, sorry. Celidana, pretty much a waste of time nowadays. That boosted health I wasn't a fan of, that she protects herself based on that. when she first came out. I'm still not a fan of it. Iset with the costume, and in fact, I don't know if her costume's been released. I can't remember doing a video on her. I don't think that her costume's been released. So Vanya, Iset as she is, I would say she's probably an A grade hero. She's pretty good. She deals extra damage against Dark, which is also useful. But I think once we see her costume released, I think that grade will definitely ramp up from an A to being in the S tier pretty easily, because her costume's probably going to be pretty insane. Gilligan, pretty much a waste of time. I know there was kind of a case for him at one point, but really not great. Gongyu, if you know how to play him, he's really not that devastating. He gets a good passive though. He is a good protector. He can be a bit tricky on defense as well. I'll give him a solid A+. He's actually really good. Grilka, I really do like. I think that I would put her in the S tier. She's a fantastic hero, really unique skills, and very tricky to deal with. So Grilka would be in the S tier for me. Guardian Elephant, man, just probably like top of, if not like second on my most wanted list. Just a freaking cool hero with those insane stacks. Works really well against Titans, works incredibly well on attacking teams in Rush Wars. Probably not the greatest of defensive heroes, but I still just love this hero. Is even for the fun factor alone, S tier. And all the stacks are undispellable, so that is just great as well. Jasper, bit of a letdown, unfortunately. I really wanted to like Jasper, but the costume for Jasper, I mean, I know there's a lot of fans of him, but I don't really see a huge use case for him except for against Titans. And if that's your thing, then great. But I just don't think that he works that well. I mean, I can't say he's bad because he's not, especially when Rush War comes around. He can be a good healer, but he's not going to give you that massive health boost. He's not really going to give you a big heal. He's I don't know. I'll give him an A+, let's say. But no, I can't do it. A. Okay, he can have an A. It's pretty A for average, not A for awesome. Justice. Right, Justice, again, is a case of the tunes being amazing. If you have the tune for Justice, she hits like a truck now. She gives that extra accuracy decrease, which is awesome and makes your team survive a bit longer and take fewer hits, which you can always do with. So yeah, I'll give her an S in the tune version because of those skills, because of that amount of damage, the stats, and the passive. Like I said, you can't get anything, give her anything less than that. Malin, I'll have to say A+ now, just because of the stats being a bit more dated. But I still do like the fact that she hits hard and she gives that bleed damage, which is awesome. Moonbow, probably the worst of the Astral Elves. Those weird little minions, I'm not 100% sure about them or sold on them at the moment, but she's still getting A+, as far as these heroes are concerned, but not in the top that we're looking for. Professor Leidenbrock with the costume, again, I'll give her an A+, but not S tier. Scroll Beast right next to her, absolute S tier hero all day long, just has the cake and eats it too. He is an insanely good hero, very, very strong. Thunderclap, pretty good taunt hero, I would say. Definitely worth leveling if you do have him. But again, he's kind of like Rhinglow, almost exactly the same effect. And I wasn't so stoked on Rhinglow. I liked him initially when he came out, and I thought he was going to be really good. And then it turns out he's not as good as I thought. So he's kind of one of those heroes, but I would still definitely find a use for him, especially in the rush teams where you need that taunt effect. He can be extremely useful, but outside of that, he's not really a good all-rounder. He doesn't play well in all areas of the game. So we'll give Thunderclap an A minus? A? I'm not sure. Right, on to Vivica. So we're getting into our last group of heroes here. Again, I'm saying this a lot today, but if you have the tune for Vivica, definitely level her, max her. She works so well in regular wars as a tank. She works incredibly well in Rush Wars as a tank as well. Just a great protector of your team. So if you have the tune version for her, max her. If you don't, then just max the other version and wait until you do get the Toon version, because she's really, really great. And next to her, we have Winnie. Also one of my favorite heroes. And you know what? I think that I would put her in the same sort of class as Toon Vivica, maybe a little bit higher. I think that she is also in the S tier, and I think she's probably one of the more underestimated heroes from the new Knights as well. So Winnie would get an S tier and a stamp of approval from me for sure. Zanuqua, just a freak of nature and a absolute, well, piece of trash. I don't know. She's just, I can't even stand to look at her. I know I've reviewed her, but like, I don't think she's very good. She, at least she hasn't been memorable except for the way that she looks so terrible. So I would stay well away from that hero. Now we have Zhuge who is the Asian Snoop Dogg now in the costume and making the rounds as just one of the most frustrating heroes with those counterattack minions and those fiends as well. And that passive with the unstoppable minions for these heroes is just so OP. It's insane. And you can see that because he's in some of the top raid defenses that are at the top of the leaderboard day in, day out, in the best alliances in the world. And he's there for a reason. He's that good. And he doesn't really do any damage. All he does is summon these minions that are completely indestructible. And that is enough. So if you have the costume, S tier all day long. If you don't have the costume, sorry guys, but he's just not the same hero. It's a completely different kettle of fish. And then Zora, not a fan of Zora. Dog water hero, waste of time. Unfortunately, I'm not even going to spend any time on Zora. So that is pretty much it for this whole entire list. So if you can believe it, we have literally gone through a total of 127 heroes. Sheesh, that's a lot. And that's just the slow speed heroes. So we're just scratching the surface. But now it's time for what you've all waited for. Let us get into our top 20. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time talking about these heroes because I know we've been on for a while. And some people have been saying my videos are too long, but I just want to do this all justice, because if we're going to do a tier list, we're going to do it right, man. This is once or twice a year, and that is what it is. So we'll start off at number 20. Coming in hot is my man Ludwig. Still just such a great hero. Absolutely awesome effect. Gets that taunt, gives the defense against special skills so he protects himself, and gives that mana gen for 6 turns. The allies next to him regenerate mana and it goes up to 100%. Enough said. He's a fantastic hero. So he definitely still, of the old school heroes, despite the dated stats, you can see they're 816 on the team power, he still deserves a spot in the top 20. Now coming in at number 19, it is going to be the Nine-Headed Beast. Nine-Headed Beast is still awesome. I will definitely give him a shout for being an awesome hero and for being a hero that you can do some pretty amazing stuff with. So he resets the duration of ailments for all enemies, and he resets the duration of buffs for all allies. So he's doing like a best of both worlds shuffle, where he's just resetting the duration. You can plan around this. You can do some pretty awesome damage and some pretty awesome things. Plus on top of that, he's giving his whole team an increased attack of 40%. So again, usable against Titans as well if you want. And he's giving negative 40% attack to the enemies as well. So yeah, just an awesome all-rounder. I definitely am a fan of the Nine-Headed Beast. Now let us go on to our next hero in this group. So we have got the Toons. So I'm just kind of going to group them together at number 18. So we're going to do Toon Justice, Isania, and I'll say Aslar, and potentially Hawkle. But of all of those Toons at this sort of level, I will probably say that Isania is going to be my pick of the bunch. Just because I think that superior jinx that she's got kind of sets her apart from everybody else. Just the fact that she's able to do that dispel with tiles, and she's got such a unique skill on top of that. I would probably put her at the top of the bunch, but I've got to lump these tunes together. I'll lump all three of these tunes together at this group. So yeah, like I said, what's her name now? Alina doesn't quite make the cut, I wouldn't say. But definitely for Aslar, Justice, and Isania, maybe Horgel, but not. I can't do Horgel. I can't give him the top 20. But these three I definitely can at number 18. So they're going to share that number 18 spot. Now, coming in at number 17 is going to be our opera hero, which is Prince Siegfried. Now, Prince Siegfried, like I said, just such a unique skill. So he gets the Dance of the Heron. If the cast is defeated during 5 turns, he gets resurrected in the beginning of his next turn with 30% health. And then all allies recover 1100 HP. Now, this dance gives everybody counterattack, gives them a damage reduction, immunity to new status effects. Like, it's just such an awesome effect. He's a really good protector of your team, and he's really difficult to deal with on defense. So just for that alone and the survivability factor that he gives you other heroes, he comes in at number 17. He can be used well on defense. He can be used well on offense. So I'm a massive fan of him. Now coming in at number 16, let's see who we have. Number 16 on my list is going to be Winnie. So number 16, we've got Winnie in there. Winnie, like I said, I'll put her in a similar sort of vein as Vivica. Like I said a second ago, I'll probably think for me she's slightly better, but I've just seen Vivica used more, so Vivica is going to be a bit higher on this list. So she cleanses all status elements from all allies. It's a priority cleanse, which is important. She then boosts all allies' health by 900. All allies then resist max health reduction, so she's boosting your health and giving max health reduction resistance, and then she's giving 60% health as long as she has the boosted health. So how do you get rid of it? Like, you've got to chop it down, and it can't be dispelled. So yeah, she is just a healer though, and I think that's probably why I put her slightly lower than Vivica on this list, but still to me, she is a great hero. So she gets on number 16 spot. Now, number 15 is going to be Omidas. Right. So Omidas is still a great hero. Like I said before, he benefits so much from the growth and the wither effects that Moonrise Strike dealing up to 1700 damage, it just feels like he can wipe a team out, and says 40% more damage if the target's holy. And we all know we are in a holy tank meta with some cases at the moment. I mean, I guess you could say dark tanks, but as far as rush goes, I'll probably say holy, to be fair, because Costume Viv is ruling the roost in that respect. So yeah, he's just an excellent hero, deals a boatload of damage, and he brings in the spot at number 15. Now, 14, here she is in the flesh, Toon Viv. Just an excellent hero, frustrating as anything. That mana shield plus the Toon passive makes for an insanely good hero. Her heal at 50% for all allies, increased defense, and then for all holy characters becomes undispellable and lasts 2 turns longer. So it wasn't enough that she's got the Toon passive. It wasn't enough that she's got literally every other defensive stack going on that you could possibly have. But that's becoming undispellable just adds insult to injury. And then she cleanses status elements from all allies. So if they've got something on them, she makes it that much harder to now, put it back. You've got to start all over again. Can be really frustrating facing Toon Vivica. And that is why she makes the number 14 spot. Now, coming in at number 13, we have Uwe. Right, so Uwe, like I said before, he is just the king of the snipe. And if you time it right, he can just wipe the team. I like the fact that he goes from one target to another, which means that you can actually plan around this and you can pretty much kill everybody on the board if you get it right. Now, the damage is reduced on consecutive hits, but it doesn't matter too much. And then he gives the enemy this effect where if they use a special skill in the next 3 turns, then they get 725 poison damage, which ramps up with limit breaks and emblems for the next 5 turns. So they've got to deal with that as well. I mean, he's just a great hero. Absolutely excellent hero. Does take a little bit of timing and planning, but he is really, really good. And that's for that reason he makes my number 13 spot. So at number 12, it can be none other than Milady de Winter. Now, I think that she would probably have been number 1 not so long ago. But now here she is at number 12. And that just has to do probably with the stats being a little bit more dated. So it makes it a little bit more easy to survive the hit from her. But that being said, the after effect is just deadly. I mean, 385% damage to all enemies is still a lot of damage, but it's not quite as much as it was because of the stat increases that we've seen. You might get away. I mean, second limit break and emblem this hero in a heartbeat, I would. But all enemies then reflect dispellable status effect buffs that they would receive to any random character on the opposing team. And for 6 turns, it's brutal. You need a priority dispel to be able to get rid of that. And then you need a priority cleanse to get rid of the other effect, because all allies reflect cleansable status elements they would receive to a random character on the opposite team for 6 turns. Not a priority cleanse, you can get away with a regular one, but you need like a buff block or ailment resistance, plus you need a priority dispel to get rid of that buff reflection. She's just a really, really troublesome hero, and I still shaking my boots when I go up against her in Rush Wars. So an excellent, excellent pick. And Milady de Winter makes her spot there at number 12. Now, number 11 is going to be Guardian Elephant. What a great, great hero. And not even making the top 10. Wow. So Guardian Elephant, 160% damage to 9 random enemies. 9 random enemies. There's not even 9 enemies on the board. He just hits everything so hard. The stack, then he gives negative 9% attack per stack, up to 10 stacks. So negative 90% attack. So what are you left with? 10%? It's ridiculous. And then negative 6% defense, up to 10 times again. You're left with 40% if that stack gets going. It's brutal. It's just brutal. Now it says all active buffs are undispellable for all allies for the remaining turns of the buff, and all active status elements are uncleansable for all enemies for all the remaining turns of the status element. So don't underestimate that effect. Guardian Hippo is freaking brutal, but he does need other heroes paired up with him to take advantage of that effect. But when he gets going, it's pretty decent. It's pretty much game over, and it's just so hard to come back from. So number 11, even though I almost feel he should have been higher, but that's where I've got him on my list, and that's where he's staying. Number 11 out of all of the slow speed heroes that we looked at. Now, number 10. Starting out the top 10, our first Astral Elf, which is Starlass. So Starlass, like I said before, could not believe that she was being fed away in a soul exchange. This is a brutal, brutal hero. Apart from the family bonus and the passives that make them so great, she deals 550% damage to the target nearby, and this special skill never misses the target. Plus, she's running a team power nearly 1100, and she automatically does 701 damage to the hit enemy and consumes 75% of the mana from the hit enemy every time their mana gets full for 3 turns. It's a lot, not a lot of time, but you plan this hit to where you've got a team that's almost charged. Ooh, man, you're talking about some serious damage going on. And never misses, just never misses. This is a great hero, honestly. And Starlass deserves the number 10 spot. I don't care what anybody says. Starlass is freaking great. Anyways, let's get on to number 9. So at number 9, we have another toon. And this might look laughable, but trust me, it isn't. If you've been up against this guy, then you know what I'm talking about. I have mine, and he's on the way up, and I'm liking what I'm seeing. Definitely liking what I'm seeing. Now he's dealing 530% damage to the target and nearby enemies. So he's dealing a little bit less damage than Starlass, but he gets that toon passive. And that toon passive is everything. Plus, his stats are probably just going to increase more and more because the toons are going to be around for a good long while. So mark my words on this. If you have these toons, definitely they're worth the input. It takes forever to level them, but it's worth it, trust me. So the caster and nearby allies get that increased mana generation for 5 turns, plus they get plus 51% defense for 5 turns. And he deals extra damage against nature, which is an extra 50% on top of that already brutal hit. So you know you're putting them in the grave straight away. And that's why this little toon makes my number 9 spot. Now moving on. Number 8, we have Grimsteel. And I will bite the bullet on this one. I made a mistake when I first looked at this guy because he is a insanely good hero. He's just probably one of, if not, well, he's one of my favorite goblins for sure. But he's got just such a great effect. And it really, really does work so well, especially against Titans, but also in the Rush format and pretty much in every single format of the game. His growth is huge. So he recovers 54% health for all allies, first of all. Don't forget the passives again, where he gives the negative accuracy and the damage as well. And then he gives that growth 400 attack and 400 defense every single time he casts. Plus he gives all allies 30% increase mana generation for 4 turns. And if the effect's removed, then the target with the effect gets plus 10% mana boost on top of that as well. Just a great hero. Looks very simple, but in practice is an absolute beast. And that is why he makes the number 8 spot. So moving on. At number 7, another goblin is Scroll Beast. And Scroll Beast is pretty similar, kind of close, but a little bit different as well. So Scroll Beast deals a lot more damage. 335% damage to all enemies, plus the extra damage from the passive, and then gives Wither. So all enemies get negative 350% attack. 350 attack. Doesn't work as well against Titans, but really good in Rush Wars and even in regular wars as well. Because the Wither just reduces your attack so much you can't come back from it, and then summons that White Ball Mega Minion, and the White Ball Mega Minion gives that counter attack as well. Just a freaking awesome hero because of that huge damage to all enemies, and then that protection on top of it. Great hero, and easily makes the number 8 spot. Now, sorry, wait, hang on. I've lost. Right, sorry, that was weird, but I lost my count, and Scroll Beast was actually at number 7, so I got it right. Sorry, but I can't see everything you can see on the screen, but just bear with me, we will get there. Right, so moving on to number 6, and number 6 is a hero that I just absolutely love. I have mentioned her already, but it is Mystra. Mystra is fantastic. She is from the Champions family. I love the amount of passives that they get. It's just an insane amount of passives. But the main thing about her is her uniqueness and the fact that she deals different amounts of damage to all enemies depending on the speed of the enemy. But that rush enemies count as very fast targets, which means that she deals 350 plus the 150, so 500% guaranteed damage to all enemies, and it's at very fast speed. And she heals all allies for 10% of the damage dealt. So as a hitter healer, and they are impossible to find in the Rush format, I mean in the slow speed heroes, she is the best that you can do. And that is why she takes the number 6 spot. Just an insane amount of damage. Fantastic hero. Do not sleep on Mystra. She's excellent. Now coming in at number 5. So the top 5 heroes now, it is the Asian Snoop Dogg, Zhuge Liang. None other than the beast with the unstoppable minions. And this is a theme. Just so shouldn't work, but does, and is so freaking effective. Has insane amount of power now because of the increase in terms of the stats. But in terms of the minion, even though it's only got 33% health, that's like a massive minion now. It's at least 400. And you cannot dispel that. You cannot take out that minion with normal sort of ways that we like to take out minions. Plus he summons the fiends at the same time. He's an absolute beast. And you know what? It's pretty much all down to that passive. If you strip that passive away, he wouldn't make the number 5 spot. But because he's got it, he makes the number 5 spot. Now moving on to number 4, and probably a bit more interesting hero. I love this guy. It's Theodosius. So the garrison guard making good. And this guy is what that's all about. He's got an interesting mechanic, very unique, but a boatload of damage on top of that. So the 450% damage to all enemies is huge. Plus he gets the garrison guard, plus the resistance on mana reduction. But then he does this interesting effect where he reduces the duration of all allies' active status elements by 3 turns. So it's basically a cleanse, but usually it's going to be a cleanse, but it could just be down to 1 turn. But he also reduces the duration of all enemies' active buffs by 3 turns as well. So he's a cleanse and dispel, but not really, but he actually is. So it's kind of interesting, but he's just so unique in the fact that he's basically doing 450% damage and cleansing and dispelling at the same time, but there's no negative effects. Like somebody like Annabelle, she cleans up everything and then you're left with nothing. He's just taking off the nasty stuff. Plus, remember, he's got that garrison guard passive, which will remove wither every 4 turns as well. So a fantastic hero, and he easily makes the number 4 spot. Now let's move on into the top 3 heroes that we have for the slow speed heroes in Empires and Puzzles as of September 2024. Let's go. So in number 3, we have Ruwaid. Now I did kind of touch on this guy a second ago, but he is just so good. Priority Dispel, 400% damage to all enemies, extra 10% damage per removed effect, up to 500%. Doesn't take that much to get you there. It's 10 effects off of the heroes in total. And then he gives all allies 40% attack increase and an extra 2% up to 60% for 6 turns after he hits. And he gives all allies a 40% defense increase, extra 2% up to 60% for 6 turns as well. And if that wasn't enough, he regenerates 1500 boosted health over 6 turns. Just a massive, massive hero. And if you have him and you haven't leveled him, then I don't know what you're doing, because he's freaking awesome. And he easily makes my number 3 spot on this list. Now coming in second place is our newest hero, and that is the Fox's family hero, Rust. Whoa. Well, I don't know what he's doing, what he's wearing. He looks like an absolute idiot. But everything else about this hero is just grotesque, and in a good way. I mean, his family bonus is insane. That amount of damage that he's dealing with, the kind of stats that he's got, it deals lasting bleed damage to the target, which runs, it just runs basically until it is cleansed. There is no other way to remove that. And he gives cover as well, and that cover effect cannot be cleansed. First time we've ever seen that in the game. In fact, the Musketeers, that's unheard of. Like, cover's such a strong effect where they're taking that extra damage that you've got to be able to have it run out at some point, right? But not with this guy. Nope, it can't be cleansed. He's just gonna keep on damaging you until you die, basically. Yeah, he's a fantastic hero. Everything about him is great. And still relatively untested, but I feel like he definitely deserves this number 2 spot in the slow speed heroes, because I think he's going to be that good. We'll see him filter down. I know a lot of you guys pulled him in the Harvest Summon, so we'll definitely be seeing him in a rush ward near you sometime soon, unfortunately. And that leaves us with only one hero left. And if you haven't already guessed it by now, there's only one hero that can possibly take the number 1 spot. And that is, again, the War of Three Kingdoms hero, Cao Cao. Or Cao Cao, I think is how you're supposed to say it. But the costume version, not the regular version. Let's get that right. This guy, when Rush War comes around, I mean in regular wars still as well, but especially when Rush War comes around, you do not want to be going up against a team with this guy. He gets those unstoppable minions, and his ones are pretty much the worst, because they don't just dispel a single buff from a single enemy. They take all of the buffs away from you. He deals 320% damage to all enemies, and then you get those beefy minions which just cannot be removed by any other effect. And it's like I said again with Snoop Dogg, Asian Snoop Dogg, it's Zhuge Liang. You just, if you didn't have that effect, he wouldn't be quite as good of a hero. But because he does, you will just see him littering all of the top raid defenses, etc. Because that passive with the minions is so strong. You pair him up with another one of those Three Kingdom heroes, put him next to Costume Dia-chan, and you're in for a boatload of trouble. Because not only can you not take out her minions by regular effects, and she's a good healer, but his minions are then cutting and stealing away the buffs every turn. And that amount of damage with the kind of stats that we're looking at on this hero, I mean, I've got a card here that's second limit broken with emblems, etc. Nearly 1600 attack. Even though it's only 320% damage, that feels like you've just been hit for 500. And Cao Cao takes my #1 spot. So that brings us to the end of the top 20 heroes for the slow speed heroes list. Now, if you've managed to stick around with us this far, first of all, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope that you found this video helpful. Now, let's try and get this video up to 300 likes. I want to see how the reception is on these videos, because this is one thing that I always get asked for from people, is which hero should I level? And hopefully this kind of video format will answer those questions for you guys. That's kind of what I want to do, is I want to be able to have this be a resource for you going forwards, so that you can decide which heroes are worth leveling and which heroes you should keep on the bench and maybe think about for a soul exchange unless a better costume, etc. comes along. And hopefully that's what this will do for you. So with that all being said, please do let me know in the comments what you think. Let's give us a thumbs up. Let's try and get this video up to 300 likes. If we get over 300 likes, then I will, no problem. Let's carry on with the series. We'll go for the fast. We'll go for the very slow. I mean, there's loads of heroes to talk about and loads of fun to be had, I think, with this series. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please do drop us a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And let me know in the comments what you guys think, and if you think that there's some hero that should have been included in the top 20 list that wasn't, I'd also be interested to hear that as well, whether I agree with it or not, doesn't matter. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I wish you guys all the best, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.